Happy new moon, Julie.
It's not the new moon yet. It's the old moon.
Oh, we're in the balsamic phase.
We're balsamic as we speak. And don't you feel it? I always feel like, oh, I can't focus on anything. It's
I
funny
don't,
though. I give myself permission, right? So I'm trying to restring this little wind chime that I should just throw out. So I opened the sewing box but then I remembered I had to email someone. I still haven't emailed her. It's like that. So then I bounce, and then I want to caramelize these onions, but I finally, uh, you know, they're peeled. I'll get there. That's
right.
how it is.
Probably as soon as the new moon comes, they'll get cooked.
They're going to get cooked tonight.
And what time? When is the new moon? What time?
The new moon is at 11:21 p.m. Oh
Okay, so
my
you
God.
probably won't cook them. You'll probably cook them still in the balsamic phase.
They'll be balsamic onions.
Oh, that sounds tasty, actually.
Doesn't
So, okay, so we've got the new moon in Taurus.
it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
At
we made
18
it.
degrees.
Yeah, 18 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay.
Close to the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction.
Oh, right, that old thing.
Yes, indeed, that old thing. Mhm. Yep.
Yeah,
So, I think it's I think it's a hot new moon for people. I think there's a lot about Taurus is about reality, right? So there's a lot about the realities of what's going on in the world. I mean, there's the news. The news is horrendous as usual.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So I don't know if you want to talk about things like the war and stuff and Israel. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, if you want to share anything that is helpful, I think that people need to hear like helpful in the way of here's what's happening. Here's the astrology viewpoint of what's happening through Julie.
um, well, I didn't expect a real sail into a ceasefire
Yeah.
because Jupiter has been conjunct Israel's sun, which is a good transit. It makes you get away with lots of things. But very shortly, it will be squaring Israel's Mars, which is a bit more not so good, right? So I feel like Israel is making a lot of bad choices. Um, and the reasons why are kind of horrendous. I won't go into that. Everyone can do their own research. But so there's that, right? So there's Jupiter, but then you can connect dots, because October 7th happened when Venus was conjunct Israel's Mars. So anything that touches Israel's Mars is
Is a sensitive point.
it's a sensitive and volatile point.
Right. And
And so
part of the drama, part of the story
yeah,
unfolding. Yeah.
right. And so Jupiter's going to square that point. And then Uranus is going to conjuncting Israel's sun, which is also kind of steroids. But it will eventually, maybe even in the summer, we'll feel it squaring Mars. So it feels like there's a lot unfolding here that isn't, it just, I can't say that I know it will or won't happen. It just feels unstable. Uranus is not a stable planet, and this Jupiter squares are pretty up for grabs. Anything can happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think anybody would call Uranus a stabilizing factor in a situation.
Right. But if you're thinking about your own life, because none of us can really, none of us are really there. I would imagine most of the people watching this aren't, on the front lines. So what we're engaged in is this thing about being part of a time when there's radical change when we need to radically change our values,
Yes.
meaning what we spend money, time, energy, and love on.
Yes.
So the new moon is a very good time to put some intention towards that. So I like to think of, okay, so what's an example? I don't know, can you think of an example of how you might, so, you know, you figure out what house it's in your chart, and then you think about what that example, yeah, what kind of, you know, what would that look like? What's your intention?
Right. So, this conjunction that's happening is in the fifth house, my fifth house in
In your
Taurus.
chart, yeah?
Yeah. So that's a house of children and creativity. And I have forgotten actually because it's trining my Venus.
Uh-huh, which
Um
is so good, but not
it's
necessarily feeling so good.
it's so good. It's just a lot. It's a lot because and then and this is true for everybody. Pluto was sitting on top of my Venus for like 4 years, and basically through the whole pandemic, it was in the same place, right?
Right.
So I just realized that now as we're talking, we all had Pluto around, 22, 26 degrees for like a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right. Now we have Uranus coming up.
now we have Uranus and Jupiter. And so it's on my Venus, which rules my 10th house. So I've been mostly focusing on my 10th house uh stuff at work. And and but I haven't really thought about it in terms of it being about my kid or about my child or
Could be about your kid. It's exactly conjunct your Pallas Athena.
oh, is it?
Yeah, you have Pallas Athena at 18 degrees of Taurus.
I always I know I learned about the asteroids and there could you define Pallas Athena for me?
Yeah, it's the Amazon woman, although it's not Amazon according to the Greeks. It's a woman who is, I don't know, maybe ambitious in her own way and has an agenda that's hers and not from patriarchy. And it's in your house of creativity. I would say your intention should be to have more fun, more fun
Okay,
doing
I like
something
that.
that's physical, that's Taurusy. Like how
Yes.
can you bring actually, and more fun might be more sensual fun, not necessarily more, you know, hysterical fun, but you know, it might not be a roller coaster ride, but it might.
You're the second person today to have said that. We all need to have more fun. Um
You need to have more
I
fun,
need to have more fun.
sure.
I do. But now that you mention it, I did this aesthetic acupuncture course and I'm working on getting that going. And now that I think about it,
Perfect.
Taurus is about beauty and
Yes, yes.
so I'm yes. And it is honestly it is fun to do something different like with my acupuncture and literally focus on men too.
Perfect. And you know, women who are self-identified as women, not women who define themselves through the roles
Exactly.
that men give them. So
Yes,
I would like
exactly.
to point out to anyone who's listening to this that this is the process. You want to figure out what your intention would be, figure out what house the new moon is in, and then talk to, you know, some friend of yours about what that might be. Because you know, you didn't think about that right off the bat, but that's perfect. That's the perfect thing. It's very Taurus, it's very fifth house, and it's very Pallas Athena.
But
Perfect.
that was a very fun little for me uh process of discovery because it was kind of vague and I was thinking about it in one way, which is true. But then when you brought me to like, oh, but actually Taurus, and I'm like, that is exactly what is happening right now. I'm
Yeah.
like literally working on promoting that. And if anyone wants one, I'll put the information in the link below. And you can push subscribe while you're there. Um and like too. Um, but that was fun. And I think that that's the best that astrology has to offer is this process of discovery.
I think so too. It's much better than trying to predict a ceasefire or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a much better use of it. And you know, it's wherever you are, right? If I was someplace very dangerous, I'd be putting the new moon in that context. But if I'm not, then I'm going to put it in the context of my own life, and everyone has permission to do that.
Well, I mean, I think it's so like looking at the news and looking at the world events, it can make you feel very powerless, and it can and it does draw your attention out of yourself. And so, not that we need to be selfish or self-absorbed, but we also need to be in touch with what's meaningful and what we're creating in our own life that affects the collective. So,
Well, if we're cells in the body of the world, then each of us has some kind of mandate to be healthy
yes.
and
Yeah.
to align ourselves with the body of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like it for that reason, is that it does feel powerful to
Full
be
of
able to,
power, yeah.
yes, to
So
align.
what I like about this new moon is that it sextiles Saturn, and the full moon on the 23rd of May sextiles Pluto. So sextiles are, the key word for sextiles is opportunity. So new moon sextile Saturn says, yeah, there's an opportunity here to do something substantial, something that's really gonna taste or smell or feel good.
Yeah.
And but doesn't have to be chocolate ice cream. It could be chocolate ice cream. It doesn't have to be, it's not hedonism.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be in fact, Taurus is at its worst when it's hedonistic.
Although I did hear that Hollywood Gelato has a keto ice cream, which is like 85% dark chocolate, no sugar, and like it's a
Oh,
gelato.
where's that? I have to go
That's
there.
that's on Bayview. I get it. Sorry, that was like a Taurus moment.
Hollywood gelato.
I'll look into it.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
on my way. Um, great.
Sorry.
Yes, we're
So
doing like
Taurus.
we're
Yeah.
doing. Well, it's good. It'll be good for Hollywood gelato. Like yes, it's very Taurus. Good for business. um, yeah. So, and then the full moon is not in Taurus anymore. It's in Sag and Gemini. But that's an interesting part of the month. That's a very interesting part of the month. So we have the full moon there sextiling Pluto, which says be real about what you believe in. Like, your full moons are always where you see the world, right? So it's kind of saying be honest with the story that you're telling yourself. And then on the 25th, like just 2 short days later, Jupiter goes into Gemini.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, completely different time. It's a different year now. It'll be a new thing.
Yes, it'll be a new season because Jupiter's been in Taurus now for, I don't know, a
About a
year.
year. Yeah,
Yeah.
about a year.
So, which is an earth sign. And so we've had a lot of this Taurus earth practicality and real life. And Jupiter moving into Gemini feels like a liftoff into a spacecraft.
It is. It's kind of, well, maybe it's spacecraft and maybe it's just virtual space. Who can tell the difference between what's real and what's virtual,
Is
right?
that,
So when
yeah,
you're trying to figure out, what it means, you have to think about, you could look up Jupiter and Gemini, like what does that mean? But it's also, if you really want to get a picture of it, Jupiter in Taurus was about Uranus, right? Because Jupiter was meeting up with Uranus. That was going to be Jupiter's big moment. And Jupiter in Gemini is going to square Saturn in Pisces. So that's going to be one of its big, that's going to be its big event in
right.
the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jupiter square,
Not right off the bat, but
no.
eventually, yeah.
Well, that sounds, I don't know how epic it is, but I mean, Jupiter conjunct Uranus was pretty epic in terms of just its largeness of energy and ability to shake up reality, let's say.
Yeah, I think it's shaken up reality. And it's shaking up a lot of reality. Like will there be a ceasefire? Won't there be a ceasefire? There's the boycott for Loblaws. Is it making any difference? I don't know.
Right,
And there's Trump in court. That's like, it's like watching a kid with ADD, ADHD have to sit down and listen to the judge, to the
right.
teacher.
Yeah.
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 Really see where delinquency comes from.
Yeah. Yeah, Trump's a Gemini, hey?
He's a Gemini, and Uranus and Jupiter are squaring his Mars.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it just like and Gemini is also a lot of information at once, right? So and Jupiter magnifies. So as if we didn't have enough information.
Really, that's right. That's the danger. Jupiter Gemini is going to be mad amounts of information and misinformation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's what we have to look forward to. But with it squaring Saturn in Pisces, Pisces can be about spiritual beliefs or spiritual experiences too. So is there something about like a challenge of spiritual beliefs, what you if it's Jupiter squaring, it may be information squaring your beliefs or some kind of reality check. It seems like it's like a
Well,
big
think of
deal.
Pisces, think of Saturn and Pisces as compassion,
Okay.
because the level of suffering on the planet is beyond what anybody, like you can't just sit and elevate yourself above it. That would be actually heartless. But to feel it is overwhelming. So
Right.
Saturn in Pisces is really continuing to ask us to deal with the reality of suffering on the planet. And Jupiter squaring it says, well, no, let's play poker.
Right. Okay.
Well, no, let's, like, right? So that's a danger.
Okay.
But the beauty of it, if we slow it down and actually let them work together, is to really understand what can and can't, be done about the level of suffering. Because you can't get away with saying, oh, there's always war. Oh, people always have, there's always genocide. You really can't do that, right? It's nutty. It's
That's true.
sociopathic. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
psychopathic.
that's true. And I would say that the level, like if I grew up, in the 80s, 90s sort of thing, 2000s, there was a certain level of denial that everybody had, which is, sometimes healthy in order to live. But I don't think anybody, it's hard to be in denial, basically,
It is.
with the level of information and things are different, like things are different now than they used to be with technology, and so there's a little bit of unease with where are things going, like before there used to have this sense of like what came next and what the program was, and that's
Yeah.
not the same anymore, so that's very
It's like we've
challenging.
been on a road. We've been on a road driving along, expecting this and that to happen, and suddenly the road has just ended.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Jupiter comes along and says, well, we could go this way or we could go that way. It's very, and it's trickstery, right? Gemini is the sign of the trickster. So I have to say that right off the bat, there's going to be Jupiter in Gemini, Venus in Gemini, Sun in Gemini. There's going to be a lot of Gemini in that early part of late May, early June. And what's really interesting, it's like somebody should make the movie, right? So as each of these planets leaves Taurus, it sextiles Neptune. Neptune's at the end of Pisces. So as each planet leaves Taurus, including Jupiter, and enters Gemini, it sextiles Neptune. And as it gets into Gemini, it trines Pluto. So these are very favorable aspects, right? This indicates to me that there's something promising there at the end of May that is really intelligent. Gemini at its best, it's intelligent, it's informative, and it's compassionate because Neptune's in Pisces. And I think that would be an amazing time, that period, let's say from May 23rd, I guess, is when, well, on May 23rd, Venus conjuncts Jupiter, and then Venus sextiles Neptune, and then Jupiter sextiles Neptune, and then they both enter Gemini. Venus enters Gemini on the 23rd and Jupiter on the 25th. And the sun's already there. So yeah, the sun trines Pluto on the 22nd of May. So it's like a story of a journey that has a lot of, little animals and stuff that show up and help, like in the part of the fairy tale where the ants sort the seeds, or the squirrels, help you figure out which way to go, that kind of thing.
Or the bees buzz around the princess that you're supposed to pick. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. All that stuff.
Yeah. Okay, let's pray for the insects. I won't kill any this week. Um,
Right. Gemini likes a good flying thing. So yeah.
okay.
And the full moon fits right into that. The full moon on the 23rd of May is right there. Yeah. Go ahead.
That's astonishing. Like if I had time, if I had another being that I could be, like it would be fun just to write astrology stories for all of the constellations, because you painted such a fun picture of each of the planets, getting ready to leave Taurus.
Yeah, that's how I see it. When I write my insights on my website, that's kind of what's going on in my head. I'm trying to convey the story of the journey that we're on, and it's not that the planets make us do things. It's kind of like, well, seize the moment. There's a high level of intelligence and reality combined there that looks pretty good.
Well, that's good to hear. That's very good to hear. So as they're leaving Taurus, they're going to sextile Neptune, and there's going to be some compassion, and then they're all going to end up in Gemini with all this Gemini energy, information, knowledge, communication, socializing, sharing of information, innovation.
So for the world, I mean, you might not have like Jupiter may be doing something in your chart that's stressful, whatever. I can't say that about everybody, but in terms of the world chart, it looks pretty, right. There's a lot of something, and I want to say intelligent and kind that's there from the 22nd of May on.
Right.
Into early June.
So it's like the full moon happens on the 23rd, and then the sort of movement towards Gemini, the movement of Jupiter, and then the rest of the planets towards Gemini as we move into June. And then we've got a whole new sort of flavor. As you said, as Jupiter's being in Taurus, we've got Jupiter over there. So that should be, also another time it should be exciting, but also keep your nervous system grounded.
Always. Well, especially with Jupiter and Gemini.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. And then this new moon that we're in tonight and tomorrow is about aligning your intentions with your practical experience in Taurus. And that depends on where Taurus is in your chart, where that will affect.
Yeah. So walk your talk in whatever house it's in your chart.
Right. And if people want to tune into your new moons, they can sign up to your new moon classes that you have. They can join, right?
Yeah, that's free. Anybody who wants to come, they can come on the night of, and it's on Zoom, and you just have to send me an email, Juliemooninvirgo at Gmail. But if you want to have it after the fact, you have to go onto Patreon. You have to sign up for my Patreon.
Okay, I'll put that also in the link below. So, and also if anybody has any questions about anything we've talked about, please feel free.
Even if anybody wants to just weigh in with your own, I'd love to hear if people do make an intention for the new moon in Taurus.
Yes.
It's like planting a seed, right? So
let it, by all means post it here and share with everybody so people can learn more. Absolutely. Okay, thanks, Julie. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. It was fun.
And we'll hopefully do this again around the full moon. Or once.
And then we can talk about the Venus star point.
Oh, okay. That sounds exciting. Okay. Take care, Julie.
Bye.
Bye.